Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are back from our lunch break at the 2022 Scrabble Players Championship live stream presented by Scrabble Go. I am expert player Morris Greenberg, and I'm here with expert Matt Kanek. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing all right, Morris. How are you?
Doing well. We saw a whole range of games this morning. We saw a huge blowout game. We saw at the end of the day kind of a grinding game where players kept trading 30, 40 point game plays for a while. We saw a comeback game. We saw an almost comeback game. It kind of was the full range this morning. So excited to see three more games this afternoon.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm really excited for this one here. We've got a matchup featuring Andy Hong versus Michael Fagan. Michael and I go way back. Michael is from Montreal, Quebec, and every time I'm up in Canada, we make a point to meet up and play some games. So I know his game well. I know him well. And Andy Hong is a former two-time junior or school Scrabble championship. He won, I believe, in his fifth grade year and maybe again in his eighth grade year. And he's still stuck with it now. He's much older now, but he's making an appearance on board one at the Scrabble Players Championship, trying to win an adult title. So very excited for this matchup. Should be a great game.
Yeah, Andy Hong is actually in first place right now. He started off the day 4-0, and there are only three 4-0 people in the top division, and I think Michael's 3-1 right behind. So trying to, catch Andy.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting tournament so far. Some of the early favorites, Will Anderson, who's won this tournament before, Jackson Smiley, who's coming off a big victory at the World Cup, Kenji Matsumoto. They're all not having such hot starts. Kenji, Jackson, and Will are all 1-3 to begin this tournament. Joey Krafchick, I'll shout out, is in second place at 4-0. And third place is Jeff Fishbane. So of the three undefeateds, we have Andy Hong, Joey Krafchick, and Jeff Fishbane, with Michael Fagan fourth place, 3-1 with the top spread of the available players.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see. I mean, I think day one, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't go your way, if you go like 3-4 or something like that. But it definitely, you'd prefer to go at least 4-3. So all three of those guys who are 1-3 are trying to sweep the afternoon. If you're already 4-0, obviously you want to keep up that advantage. So it looks like Michael has drawn tiles to go first, and he has picked up a blank and shuffling tiles around. What do you like so far?
Oh, he's absolutely going to be bingoing out of this rack. I believe it's just a matter of choosing the right one, unless I've lost my mind. Maybe these aren't words. It's
I
been a
think
minute since I've played some Scrabble.
so. I think Valonia might be the only one in there.
Yeah, okay,
Let's
that's
go
the
with
one
that.
I saw. Yeah, so Valonia is he's the lone seven for Michael Fagan. He's an expert player. I'm certain he's going to see it. You can see he's already got it lined up on his rack. And placement's going to be pretty standard on this one. You're going to put that V on the double letter. Michael Fagan off to a hot start. He's going to open this game up with a big lead on Andy Hong.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want when you're aboard one for the first time. A bingo where you could, easily sink your teeth. And do you think he's wondering the validity at all or something? He is taking a bit long and staring at it.
I mean, as I've mentioned a few times already today, playing on stream is very hard, and so Michael is probably having this moment right now, a little bit of anxiety. I've been there, and I think almost anybody who's been on board one at the Nationals since we brought streaming up about 6 years ago has been there too, where all of a sudden everything you think you know, you might not know. But it looks like he is going with his gut correctly. He's going to drop down Valonia as long as he designates his blank correctly, and we'll watch that for a moment. Yep, he's got the A circled. Valonia for 76 gets Michael off to a good start on this game.
Yeah, and so meanwhile, Andy has some heftier tiles, we'll say, but he at least has the Q and the U together, which can score well.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of Qs on rack one. I wonder if this bag is getting shaken well. But yeah, Andy is fortunate to have a U to go with it, though not seeing any incredible options. I see Aqua down to or from the A. He can just drop Q, U, A to the blank in Valonia as well. Not really excited to hold on to that V, but when you've got the Q and the V together, it's tough to break that up.
Well, if you want to burn, if you're okay burning the S, he has Shuk, SUQ, right above the O and I in Bologna as well.
Oh, yes, he
That does
does.
score a bit more, but yeah, the S can be valuable for sure. So it's understandable if he doesn't play that.
You can tell right now he's looking at Aqua, and again, board one paralysis has to be intense right now. I didn't see Shook initially, but yeah, that's going to be a really hefty 49 points. Unload the queue. ANVP is not the most ideally for Andy, but we're gonna, 49 points is 49 points. I think he's gonna have to do it if he sees it. There he goes. He's got Shook set up. It's probably going to come down in just a minute. There's not too much else to consider on a turn like this.
Yeah, so good find by Andy, and he will score 49. And that really, like, he's down only 27 now. You'd think after a bingo you have so much cushion if the other player doesn't bingo, but, high scoring is high scoring regardless of if you use 7 tiles or 3 tiles.
Correct. It's worth noting Valonia does take an S on the end. You can pluralize that, so the S is going to be consequential this game, I think, after a play like that. That's going to kind of fork off the top of the board and make it tough to get up there. Michael's got an interesting rack. Initially, I'm seeing like Ziram or Mirza through the A. None of those leave super great stuff. There's Vizier as well from the V, holding YUM. So Michael's got some options. We're just seeing power tiles go real quick in this game. We've already seen a blank, an S, and a Q played, and now we're probably going to see a Z as well.
Yeah, and just to backtrack for a second, what Matt was saying with the top right of the board kind of being shut down, it's just that QI can't really take anything in front of it. So the only way we can access, we often like to think of the board in quadrants. So the top right quadrant of the board is with an S for Valonias. That's literally the only way right now. So he plays Vizier, which opens the bottom left quadrant of the board. We're fans of the play.
So Andy's going to be able to respond by overlapping on the left side of Vizier. Initially jumping out to me, he can play Pave or Paved. He's also got Pavan, Pavan. All of those seem like decent options for him to get rid of that VPA kind of clunk. He can also consider Pavan in other places. Morris, anything jump out to you on this turn?
Yeah, I think all of the things you were saying are reasonable. I mean, Pave probably is the natural play. If you think Michael's likely to keep a D, R, or S, then Paved maybe, just because it would open up a lane in the triple that you can extend to Paved, Paver, or Paves.
Right. And it is scary opening up. If you just play Pave, there are so many letters that go behind it, the D, the R, and the S, that there's a good chance Michael will be sitting on one and will get access to that triple word score. But if he doesn't, then Andy's able to jump on it. So that's a decision he's probably thinking about right now is, do I want to be aggressive and just play Pave and set up this hook and gamble? Or do I want to take the extra 4 points right now and play Paved instead?
Yeah, or Pavan for that matter. I mean, DE as a lead instead of AN does have a bit more synergy. So even though Pavan scores 2 fewer points than Pave, both are reasonable. I think, as I've said before, I often like to think about my Scrabble turn in a 3-turn sequence, how many points I score this turn, how many points I can allow for my opponent next turn, and how good are the letters I keep for my scoring the turn after that. And so,
Correct.
yeah, so Paved scores 2 more this turn than Pavan, but Pavan leaves a better lead of DE for my next turn.
It looks like Andy may also be considering Panada through the A, Panada, making ZA. That's going to score well, but going to open up some very interesting dynamics for later in this game by having that S hook available where you can pluralize it and hit that double word going the other way at the same time. So that's another option for Andy to consider. My inclination is just to score points, clear up the rack, and play Pavan on the left side of Vizier. That does slot the in and the triple line, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make at this point in the game. We'll see if Andy feels the same way.
Yeah, Panada is a really nice idea. He might even going Pavan through that A as well because I guess he now moved the A over. For a sec he had ADE separated. But yeah, Panada is a very interesting idea. I mean, you need to be pretty sure your opponent doesn't have the X. And on Vizier, I don't know if you can conclude that necessarily in either direction. So I think Pavan seems like, even though it opens a triple, as Matt said, in a lot of ways I think it's safe.
So Andy does elect with the play I chose as well, Pavan. It's a tough play to make because of that triple, and you could absolutely justify some other plays, paved, panada. They're all pretty close, and really it's going to come down to what your opponent has and what you end up drawing. Kind of feels like rolling dice with plays like that. But I don't see any immediate big response from Michael. Do you see anything, Morris?
No, I'm not. At least not in that spot. I have been looking. You're naturally, I think, drawn to the new big triple spot whenever that becomes available. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything there right away.
Yeah, he does have scoring options. I believe Mankey is a word through that A, but that's going to leave just the disgusting UUT, which is going to lead to issues next turn. So Michael's left with the decision now of do I score a whole bunch right now and score very little next turn because of this abysmal leave, or do I try to find a more happy balance in here? This is tough. I bet Michael spends a good amount of time really considering his options here.
Yeah, it is tough. So the two main plays probably are make, as Matt pointed out, or Tunny through the end from Pavan, Tunny. Yeah, it's 17 fewer points, but again, MUK at least can score off in the next turn. UUT, you know, hope for drawing umlauts or something, but if you can't do
Right.
that, then you're kind of
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah, I'm inclined to play Tunny here of those two options. It just keeps a more stable leave and allows you to do something next turn. I can't help but feel like this board is going to have to get opened up soon. There's not a ton of possibilities right now, but there will be. Somebody's going to draw that S for Valonias and make something happen. So you'd like to, if possible, keep stuff for when this board does open up.
Yeah. And one other thing to remember is that U's become less valuable once the Q is played, especially how the Q is played here, where we can't make another QU word after. So, really, like, the U's are already not a great tile without the Q when the Q isn't seen. When the Q's already been seen, it's even worse.
44.
So, I understand that feeling by Matt, but 17 extra points is a lot, and that's what Michael goes with here.
We'll see where that UUT ends up taking him. A couple I's, he's in trouble. Another U, he's in trouble. But there are definitely ways he can get out of it. It looks like Andy had set up Algicide, but with a Y. I don't think he was thinking of playing that. I think he was simply, oh, wow, he is going to try to play Algicide, but with a Y instead. That is, to my knowledge, not a real word. I do know Michael Fagan has a really tough time challenging words. It might be one of his big weakness. It doesn't look like Andy's on hold. Andy's drawing his tiles, and he's going to get away with a nice phony bingo here out of what would otherwise be a really tough rack. Wow, big break in Andy's favor on this game. That took guts to do. I wonder if Andy thinks it's a word or if he knows the book on Michael Fagan. But tiles are out of the bag. That play is going to stand. Wow.
Uh, yeah, I think Andy also played that absurdly quick. if he was thinking of phoning there, um, and man, that's if he thought it was a phony, that's just a great poker face by Andy, just like slapping it down right away, kind of insta playing it and psyching Michael out completely.
Yeah. I mean, that is the book on Michael. I've definitely gotten some things by him before. He's a very solid player who knows words well, and he doesn't seem to have quite the
22.
confidence to challenge, especially on board one. Man, it is so hard. And this is huge. Michael plays Tune, which is definitely a fine play, but Andy's terrible rack, I believe, is going to get bailed out by Twerp through that E for 39 points. So another big break for Andy. It's looking like it's going to start to snowball here. Wow, just two good breaks in a row.
Yeah, like one thing that everyone says
Ooh.
that Nigel Richards is the best player in Scrabble, but the one thing that he sometimes could do even better is he doesn't ever phony basically. And we see that like if you are able to phony sometimes it can be a huge advantage. It goes from being a 30-point play on a turn to a 70 or 80-point play like Andy showed.
So
So
Michael's drawn into Bedouins. He already sees it, and he's got two spots for it. He
yeah.
can play twerps. He can play Valonias. I think the twerp spot will score just a little bit more, so he's probably going to go with that. But we're seeing fireworks here. This is a change of pace from the previous game, round 4, where Lisa and John Karras both just could not draw racks that were conducive to scoring. now we're just seeing explosions of points.
So Bedouins is coming down now, and so that will give Michael the lead again. Michael was up for a bit, then Andy got that phony pass to take the lead, and now Michael has roughly a 60-point lead after this play of Bedouins.
Andy's got a fun option here. He could consider just playing Jug through the U in Bedouins. It leaves a very good leave of title, but Jug does take an S and a back A as well. So he would set himself up, but if Michael pulls one of those tiles as he has, then that could explode
Well,
backwards.
Michael did draw the X as well, and he just created a spot where the X could go two ways on a triple letter score. So Michael has a 50-plus point play in store for himself next turn if Andy doesn't take that spot. But yeah, Jug is a cool idea for sure this turn.
Yeah, this is very interesting. It's crazy knowing both players' racks at once because sometimes you want to shout through your screen, don't do that, but they have no idea of knowing. This is interesting for Andy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to monitor is there were just two more bingos that came down, but they kind of took out all the lines with each other because they're parallel to each other. So it's very hard to make 8-letter words via either of them. They'd have to be 9-letter words. And we can see that because of the things like the V on Valonia and Vizier and the SUQ plays, the top left part of the board is basically inaccessible. And Andy needs to be really careful now that he's down by over 70 points. He needs to be really careful about making an intentional play that doesn't constrict the board too much.
That's why I think a play like Jug would be so appropriate for him to make. Keep that good leave, open up another spot. It is very, very risky is the big problem.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I guess from Andy's perspective, there are 5 A's unseen and 2 S's unseen and a blank. Yeah, I don't know if I do that. It seems. I mean, granted, his options are limited here, so given his set of options, it might have to be the play, but it just seems like going Hail Mary too soon to some extent. I feel like.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I'm just not seeing much in terms of other options for Andy at this point. And Jug is going to maybe work out to his advantage as Michael is sitting on Oxo right now for a bunch of points next to Bedouins. So Jug is going to partially obstruct that and force Michael to just play Ox or Fox. This is tough, though.
Yeah, I mean, so one option to open up the left side of the board is a nice underlap of digital through the I in Vizier, making at LA and Sol, SOL, keeping the J as one tile. It scores only 20, and it does open up a kind of risky triple lane, but that would start opening up the entire other side of the board as a kind of option that he could consider if he doesn't want to kind of go the Jug Hail Mary route.
It's not as hard as you think, I feel, to open this board. Whatever letter goes behind PI next to Vizier and Pavan, whatever letter ends up going there is going to dictate a lot about this game. If that letter is a C, if you make pick, well, we've got epic hooks that you set up. If that's a T, you set up another S line to front hook it with spit. But if it's something like a G, oh man. Well, Andy just took care of all of that. He plays Jig, so it's a similar version of Jug, but it doesn't open anything up. And that's tough because really there's just the one bingo line accessible to Andy that's on the right side of Bedouins. And it's gone away now. So Andy needs a big pull here, I think, to stay in this game. He's going to need a bingo next to Oxo. Here's the E he needed and an I. That's not going to do it for him.
Yeah, it's not quite there. So he's down over 100 now. I mean, it's a tough position for him.
I think
I don't know what I would do. Yeah.
This is where a play like Jig is just so killer. I mean, you can't expect a 50-point X-bomb, and you can't play like he's going to, get hit with a 50-point X-bomb, but Jig just killed a board in a game where you're already down. The S is going to be absolutely essential, I think, at this point for Andy to draw for Valonia's. Without that, I don't think he has much of a chance to get himself back in. But he's going to have to decide now, do I break up this bingo prone rack to try to open up the board? Or do I just stick with it and run? It's I don't know what Andy does in this situation, but I
I
think
mean,
Jig kind of did him in.
a gate under the AG from Jig and Valonia does score 36 points. That's, I mean, it doesn't help with board dynamics at all, but 36 points is 36 points.
36 points is 36 points. That is a fact, brought to you by Morris Greenberg, commentating alongside Matt Canick at the Scrabble Players Championship, which serves essentially as the North American Championship for competitive Scrabble. This is day
So,
one of a 5-day tournament. This is round 5. 31 total games will be played between the players here in Baltimore, Maryland. And we've seen some really high-level Scrabble so far. If y'all are having fun, if you're new to the game of Scrabble, check out the chat on Twitch. We've got some resources for you to learn how to play more competitively, both online or in person, in a club or more competitive tournament formats. Give it a check out if you're seeing Scrabble played for the first time. We'd love to have you.
yeah, so Andy had Tailed and now Iliad set up. So I think he's kind of lasered in on the lane that Michael just created, making Bod from BO. And which is reasonable. I mean, that is the like the most easy scoring high point lane available at this point. Even though those two plays score less than a gate, it keeps better leaves and starts to open up the top part of the board. So I completely understand those kinds of moves.
This is tough. There are exactly 2 spots to make plays that are relevant to the future of this game. One is backhooking Valonia and making a play down in that row, and the other is right next to Oxo. And Andy doesn't want to close that spot off, but there's not really a way for him to make another one. And if he leaves it alone, Michael is probably going to score a substantial amount of points next turn. So Andy, I'm sure, does not want to make this play, but he feels he needs to make this play. And so that's what he does. He plays tailed, scores a lot of points to prevent Michael from scoring a lot of points. And I think that's probably a fine thing to do in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, I agree. It's exactly the sort of thing that he has to hope works out. I'm also wondering, are there any three-letter front hooks to tailed? I guess is like red tail the word.
Red
I
tailed?
guess
I don't like that for a second. No.
28.
yeah. Well, I guess it doesn't matter now because well, actually, fan tailed was available this turn.
Oh wow,
Gloriously enough.
Fantailed. Dang. Yeah, that's
This,
Fantail's a 7. I'm certain Michael knows, but does he know that you can put an ed on the end? And then would you even
yeah.
think to find that word?
Yeah, so Frena is still a good idea, though. It does close down a lot of those lanes Andy just created, and scores 28. So,
Andy hugely has pulled the S that he needed to get back into this game. He doesn't have a bingo that is 7 letters long that plays next to Valonia now, but at least he has the S to try to make this happen down the road. He might be able to score a lot of points, making Doc or DOH in the bottom right go down to that triple word. He's got some options to score now, but crucially, he needs that S, and he has it. So this is not game over, not by a long shot, and I'm excited to see what Andy does to try to get back into this game.
yeah, and one option down to the triple that preserves the S actually is Ethic, making DOE. That does score 37 points. In this sort of situation, Andy is down by 111, so he needs not only a bingo, but high scoring plays on top of that. So it will be interesting. He could make a play like How off of the W and Twerks for fewer points, only 25 points, to keep a really strong lead with CEIST to almost guarantee a bingo in the next 2 turns. Or he could blow it up a bit more and go for 12 more points for Ethic and just hope for the best.
Yeah, this is tough. He's definitely going to take some time to go over every possible 5-letter word he can make in that spot. He originally set up Chose, and Chose is the highest scoring option he's got there, but really don't want to get rid of that S in a game where you're down and there's a huge S spot. He may end up having to bite the bullet and play it if he doesn't want to play Ethic, just to score some more points and hope and pray that he does pull that fourth S, the final S. But I don't think that's something he wants to do. I think Ethic is the right thing to do. It's the right mix of scoring, but then also retaining an S.
Yeah, well, he's shifting back and forth between Chose and Ethic. Chose is 11 more points, so it's a 48-point play. It's a tough decision point here. I mean, the one thing I'll say about Chose is after Ethic, he'll still be down close to 70 points. He'll need a bingo and extra stuff to get past Michael, because with just a bingo, Michael will still have a tempo advantage of 20 to 30 points for each turn by having a first move advantage. With Chose, he'll need to draw more of the right stuff immediately, but he won't need to consider the tempo part of it too. He would just need a bingo. And so maybe he's thinking about, you know, if I play Chose now, I need to draw the right stuff. If I play Ethic now, I probably still need to draw the right stuff anyways, so why not take the points?
Yeah, an additional option Andy had that turn was HOW to the W in twerps. Thanks to Noah for pointing that out in the chat. That's really putting all my eggs in my basket. I'm leaving the best possible leave. CEIST is really synergistic with itself. You're going to bingo a very high percentage of the time, but you're scoring a little bit less in order to make that happen. So it's tough. I don't know what I would have chosen in there. Probably depends on my mood. There's certainly merit to each of those plays, Chose, Ethic, and How. But Andy is now very reliant on that last S to get back into this game. And Michael's probably trying to figure out what he can do to address that Valonia's hook without sacrificing too many points to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, he does have other, like, it's interesting. I feel like that Z, even though it looks obstructing, there's often little plays that these players have been able to make. I think Zeta is an option this turn, or ZEE, are probably close to his highest scoring plays. But yeah, I understand that it's probably better to be more intentional with your turn and try to block the key area where your opponent can really claw back. But it's hard to do.
If nothing else, I'd like to, as Michael, at least think about addressing the R in Frenna, knocking out any way that Andy can bingo and get back into this game. But it's difficult because the only consonants Michael has are D and R, and most plays are going to string a D or an R somewhere that Andy can bingo to them anyway. So what's the point of blocking an R that Andy can bingo to if you just give him another R that he can bingo to? It's kind of frustrating to try to play some defense here. But he's got options. He can play like ERA, ERA next to Frenna, making ER, Ret, and Anna, things like that, just to close off some of the board if he so chooses. But that Valonia hook, again, is going to be huge. If I'm Michael, too, I think part of what I'm concerned about is Andy didn't spend a ton of time on shows. So what are the odds that he held a second S? I'm trying to play that game with myself right now. Does he already have it, or did he think really hard and play his only S and hope he pulls another one? So probably all of this is going through Michael's head right now. Of course, we know the answers and he doesn't. It's much easier to sit on this side of the camera than be down there. Michael looks like he is just going to play like Z or Z or Zeta, something over there.
Yeah, he looks like he's opting for Z. I mean, he was holding three E's before it. I think he's basically saying, you know what? I'll give you one turn to try to get a bingo. I'll just keep as good of bingo tiles as possible. I still have more than a bingo lead on you. There's a good shot I can bingo right after you bingo, and then I'm in business. And he picked up the blank.
That's huge. So. Michael's picked up the second blank, and that's going to make it very difficult for Andy to get back into this game. Andy's, of course, going to have to keep trying to open the board, but Michael is probably just going to bingo in response to it, and that's going to be more or less game over.
Yeah, so it looks like he has where set up WAIR off the R in Frenna. I mean, it's a reasonable play. Getting rid of a W and an I is something that you always want to do in these sorts of situations. But yeah, and he's also switched to Iota, which scores a few more. That would go parallel to the F, R, E, and N in Frenna, and iota does take a front hook of a B for biota, but it's hard to end a 7-letter word with a B if you were to try it.
And I really think a lot of what Andy's feeling right now all comes back to that pivotal play of jig, because that made it nearly impossible to get to the top left side of this board at all. And he knew already he was in a situation where he might need to bingo. Of course, again, he didn't know the X play for 50 was coming, but he was already down. And it's really tough. I don't know what you're supposed to do with that rack, but that's just a consequence of a play like jig. Is this board is not going to get back open without significant manipulation now.
Yeah, well, he might be trying a phony of Waitor.
I love that. I love that. I think that's exactly what Andy needs to do. And if you're Michael, that is so hard to challenge too, because, well, if Andy does draw a bingo, you know, he's going to bingo again. If you challenge, you lose a turn, Andy draws a bingo and bingo's back. Like, it's a tie game now. So I honestly, in this situation, playing against him, you've already snuck algicide spelled incorrectly by him. I might have tried that, honestly. I think that's my best chance to win this game. And if it backfires, if he challenges, fine. But I would have given it a go.
39 is actually.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. I feel like Waitor, or Waitors for that matter, with an S, is so much more probable of a word that if Michael hadn't, like that one, I could see Michael challenging almost instantly a lot more often than Algicide, which looks like a lot of things and is lower down in your study list most likely. You don't like studying those GYC words in general. You definitely like studying those ORSTA kind of words. So,
I would have done it. Y'all can call me crazy. I would have done it 10 times out of 10 in this situation. I think that's something I only do against a small number of opponents. But I think Andy was playing against the one. Andy, ironically enough, has drawn Waitor again. So that's he can think about making that play again. It'll score a lot less, but it is there.
Yeah, this actually complicated the position a lot more for Michael by playing Iota, just because before it was likely he was going to get a bingo. Now he needs to figure out, okay, I'm in the driver's seat here, but I don't have a bingo right away. How do I approach this turn? And I definitely know, like, I sometimes feel very comfortable once I get the blink and I have a lead. And then I keep fishing off a few tiles, not getting the draw I want, and then my opponent bingos, and all of a sudden it's the end of the game and I can't bingo, and it's not, the blank isn't that helpful anymore to me.
I think on Michael's turn there, I would have played Ruana, R-U-A-N-A, to the A-N-A, just to get rid of that pesky Valonia's hook once and for all. There is still one unseen S. The only real way I lose is if Andy bingo's there and I can't hit him back and some other bad stuff happens. So I would have addressed it, but there's nothing wrong with what Michael did either. He's keeping his rack very, very flexible, so that if the board does open up, and you have to imagine it does, given where Andy's at in this game score-wise, he's going to be able to hit back. He has two bingos with an S as that blank, Asunder and Dansur, but neither one is going to fit in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is Michael, by scoring that many points that turn on Ha for 25, he just maintains a very comfortable lead. Even if Andy bingos on this board, it's not going to be enough to get to an 83-point deficit. So I like the idea of, you know what, scoring a few tiles, right, scoring well. Ruana scored only 10 points versus 25. Sacrificing 15 points there changes worst-case scenarios a lot.
Andy set up a toe on his rack. I'm pretty sure he's thinking about playing Towage to the AGE. That's going to set up the front hook of Stowage. I think that's exactly what he needs to do to get back into this game. It's probably honestly going to be too little too late, but you have to take that shot if you can. So I hope that's what Andy plans on doing with those letters. I'd imagine it is, and we'll see what he's able to do from there. Really, he's just going to get bingoed back on by Michael because Michael's maintained that rack flexibility, but it's a good thought. It's a good idea.
Yeah, the even crazier idea of an extension is Arowana, Arowana, is available. So I don't think he's going to see that right now. But yeah, I think Towage would be cool. He might be. He has War set up. I'm wondering if he's going to do Wart Ahi and Rad off of. Yeah, it looks like that's what he's playing now. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I guess Michael has been playing short the past few turns, so maybe he's going to wait for Michael to try to open up while he claws back and scores a bit. He's in a tough position any way you cut it, so all of these options are going
There
to
it
be.
is. He got the S. He got oh. You can tell Andy picked up the letters. He wanted an E. He wanted an A. He wanted to try to bingo, and he picked up the T. Andy's not even putting it on his rack right now. There it goes. Michael sees underages. Is he gonna burn a blank for a non-bingo here? I think he is.
Yeah.
So Michael's going to
Wow.
score a double-double. It's going to be a lot of points for him still, and it's going to be enough that even if Andy bingos, and he's not going to this turn, Michael's going to win this game anyway.
Yeah, underages is an interesting idea. I mean, it's 48 points, so it will give him quite the lead.
Yeah.
And
How many tiles are in the bag right now, Morris?
so after underages, there will be less than 7. So Andy couldn't get 2 bingos even after underages.
Yeah, so after underages, Michael's going to be up about 140 points. Even if Andy does hit like a 90-point bingo with Valonias, that's it. It looks like Andy is holding the play, thinking maybe underage could just be an adjective. He's also dead, if this is a word. There's absolutely no chance he's going to win. So this is something you'll see in Scrabble a lot, where a player is almost certain a word is good, but they might challenge it anyway just because you have to take that shot to try to win the game. So Andy's thinking, obviously spread or point margin is a thing, but it looks like Andy is going to pull the challenge. And I bet if you ask him, he's 95% sure this is good, but you have to try. So we're seeing
Yeah.
the players, they're getting up, they're walking to a computer that has the entire dictionary loaded into it. They're going to type in this play, these words. And we know, because we're on a computer already, that this is going to come back acceptable. Michael very happy about that, running back to the table, getting ready to get this game over with, and move up to 4-1 at the Scrabble Players Championship.
Yeah, so it's the kind of play that your best shot of winning is it being invalid. He has less than a 10% chance of winning after underages, and if it stays on the board anyway, so might as well hope if you're only 90% sure it's good.
So I don't blame Andy for that at all. It is going to definitely cost him significant spread or point differential, but you do what you have to do to try to win the game. Andy probably wants to try to fish one tile. There's very little Michael's going to be able to do about the Valonia's hook now, so he might just drop a T or something, depending on what's in the bag, and see if he's able to draw that bingo. Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting because off of the AR in Pavan and Vizier, he could make a tar and set up a star hook, potentially. And he has the last S, remember, and there are no blanks remaining. So that seems like the kind of play he could make, but it probably is too little too late.
It's certainly too little too late, but hey, that small moral victory, and there's something in Scrabble too, man, about setting up a spot that your opponent's not going to be able to do almost anything about. It's all for you to just sit there and fish for your bingo. It just feels nice. So that'd be a play he can make, but more or less this game's done.
32.
Yeah.
Michael's going to drop down oof for a gazillion points, 32 points a gazillion. It's about the same number. But he's going to hold on to win this game, certainly. I do want to give a quick shout out to my fellow Texan, Mariah Smith. In game 4, a player could have potentially front hooked Handy to make Shandy. And I quipped that, hey, I could go for a summer Shandy right now. 30 minutes later, my doorbell rings. DoorDash had delivered a little summer Shandy to my door. Compliments of Mariah. So thank you so much. That was not something I was expecting, getting to stream all day. But a shout out to Mariah for the little summer Shandy gift basket. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, the commentators work hard, always up for a refreshing beverage.
I think Morris is making a plug for himself right now, too, if anybody has his address.
It's all good. I don't give out my address on stream.
Probably for the best that you don't. Morris, how many tiles are in the bag right now?
So there's one in the bag right now. So Andy can play Tar here to set up Star as an option, and there are 3 E's unseen to him, and one of those is the E in the bag. So if he does play Tar, he'll have Toilers in or Loiters in 2 spots.
Yeah. Eliorst makes loiters, toilers, and S trial. So he'll have a bingo that plays if he's able to create a second job or a second line for him. But again, far too little, far too late for Andy to get back into this one. Tough game. Andy made some really cool choices. Algicide is a play that I think he's one of the only people who would actually try to make that, and it paid off hugely for him. He probably gained 40 or 50 points of equity on that turn alone, and yet it just wasn't enough. Michael couldn't stop scoring, crushed that X spot. He hit Bedwins. He opened with Valonia, and just really never stopped scoring. Mankey as well. So great game by Michael. Nice try by Andy, but that's how Scrabble is at the top level. Somebody's got to win, and somebody's got to lose.
Yeah.
Unless you tie.
Yeah, there has to be one total net win if a tie counts as half a win for both people.
Correct.
But that doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
I do think that in the rule book, if like both players commit egregious sportsmanship errors, or both players fail to show up, or neither player has equipment to play with, then both players take a forfeit loss. So technically, it is possible to happen. I've never heard of it, but it can happen. Andy's going to reach in and be very pleased to pull that last E out of the bag. He did find Star. He gets to set himself up nicely. Michael, I'm certain, has the tiles tracked correctly and sees his doom. He knows that Andy can bingo in 2 spots. And probably just going to try to score as much as he can in the interim, and we're going to see the end of this game. Fine, Michael, I'm trying to score at least 28 points this turn. I'd love to get that moral victory of scoring 500 at a Nationals game. I'm not seeing options right now because of the shape of this board and how unconducive it is to doing anything unless you have an S. But that's what I would like to try to do if I'm Michael.
Yeah. So Michael also played through this game very quickly. He still has 9 minutes left on his clock just to see, okay, well, and it's a pretty simple end game for him, right? He knows that Andy will be guaranteed a bingo, so he just needs to score as much as possible here. And, so it makes his decision easier when your opponent has the best stuff possible in 2 different spots that you can't block both for.
We'll check who we got in the next game for you here at the 2022 Scrabble Players Championship. I'm just going to kind of do some standing updates while we wait for this one to finish. I'm going to pop over to the Collins or CSW division. There's only one undefeated player, and that's Canadian Matthew Tunnicliffe, who's 4-0 with a spread of about plus 500, although that is a very tight and very talented field. So we'll keep you posted on CSW standings. Popping over to Division 2, first place is David Grimad right now with Knox Daniel, Joanne Cohen, and Marty Gold as the other 3 players undefeated in that division. Pop over as well into Division 3. It looks like the ratings haven't been updated for Division 3 yet, so I can't get you results there. And in Division 4, we have 4 undefeated players as well. Elaine Livers, Nathaniel Campos, Rana Afechi from Texas, and Brian Summers as well, with 2 other players at 3.5 and 1/2. So technically 6 undefeateds in Division 4 going into this round.
Yeah, it's all of these sorts of games early on. You can see these crazy spreads and stuff often when there's some. I know in the not younger divisions, the lower divisions, there can be just imbalances where there could be a player who's underrated by like 400 points and go off at the beginning. So it's always crazy to see some of those spreads towards the beginning. And Michael is finding his highest scoring play, so good on him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Morris, but I think we've seen the player seated on the left of the stream win all 5 games today. Will, I believe, sat in the right chair for the first 3 rounds. And did he win a game? No. And then, John Karras sat on the left seat for round 4 and won that game. And now Michael Fagan sitting on the left for round 5. Round 6 is going to keep Andy Hong on board 1, and he'll face Jeff Fishbane. who's a fellow pharmacist, actually. I'm in pharmacy school right now. For those of you who don't know me, I'll be graduating next year, and he's, I think, the only other pharmacist I know of who's an expert level Scrabble player. So more games for you coming up soon. Andy is going to get the feel good bingo at the end and drop down Loiters and Star.
79. And you get 4 more for me.
And that's going to be it for this game. Nice job by Michael.
16 to 494. Nice setup. I don't know if I could have
So stay tuned. We're not going to drop the stream or anything. We're hoping to go straight through this afternoon and bring you more action. Again, they're going to do a little post-mortem here. I bet there's going to be a real quick pull out the phone and look up this word algicide. We'll see if we can get a read on the players' faces. And from there, we're going to get the next game, Andy versus Jeff Fishbane. I see in the chat, David Gramada is a pharmacist as well, so I just gave him a shout out for being undefeated. Jeff Fishbane was undefeated going into this round, so go Team Pharmacy. 2 undefeated players, and I'm undefeated at home too. I have not dropped a game yet in this tournament because I am not playing. So, cool. Interesting game for us here. Some tough decisions, but sometimes this is how Scrabble goes. When it rains, it pours. And Michael able to drop the Dwins and Oxo, I think, was the huge kind of 1-2 punch that did Andy in. Michael now filling out the result slip. In Tournament Scrabble, the winner of each game fills out a piece of paper, and it gets signed by both parties and brought up to the tournament director, who then inputs it into the computer to continue pairing and keeping the standings out from then on.
Yeah, I mean, 48 points, you kind of have to challenge. And there's a chance that, it might be...
The commentators are going to step away for just a moment. I've got to get another little drink mixed up, some Sprite, and we'll have the next game for y'all in just a few minutes. We're going to cut to our... we're not going to kill the stream, so stay with us, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
I love your